You know, deep in the swamps and waterholes of Australia, there's this legend. It's about a creature so terrifying it's been haunting the continent for, well, tens of thousands of years. We're talking about one of the world's most enduring mysteries, a primal nightmare that goes by one name, the Bunyip. So just listen to that description. A dog's face, but with tusks. A horse's tail, but with flippers. I mean, what even is that? Is it a mammal? A reptile? It's this total monstrous mashup that makes the Bunyip so fascinating and, honestly, so hard to pin down. To really get to the bottom of this mystery, we have to start at the source. And that means diving into the deep and ancient oral traditions of Aboriginal Australia, where the Bunyip isn't just a story, it's a fundamental part of the continent's folklore. Yeah, this is where it gets really tricky. The descriptions of the Bunyip, they are all over the place. Some stories talk about tusks and fur, others are convinced it has flippers and a horse's tail. The only things everyone seems to agree on are that it lives in the water and has this absolutely terrifying, booming cry. For centuries, because the stories were so inconsistent, most people just wrote the whole thing off as a myth. But hang on a second, this is the question that changes everything. What if the Bunyip wasn't just a spooky story you tell around the campfire? What if it was a memory? A memory of something that actually walked the earth. This is where our investigation pivots from folklore to fossils. So, let's travel back in time. I mean, way back to a prehistoric Australia that you probably wouldn't even recognize. We're talking about a land of giants, a place where the very first humans to set foot on the continent came face to face with creatures that seem like they're straight out of a fantasy novel. The scientific name for these massive creatures is megafauna. And here's the crucial part, the thing you have to remember. This isn't speculation. We know from the fossil record that these giant animals shared the landscape with the earliest Aboriginal people for thousands and thousands of years. They didn't just find their bones later, they saw them alive. Just to give you a sense of scale here, okay? Think about a wombat. You know that chunky burrowing marsupial? Right. Now imagine one the size of a car. That was the Diprotodon, a massive beast that weighed up to 2.5 tons. Can you imagine running into that? You would never, ever forget it. Okay, so we've got a monster from legend on one side and a lost world of real-life giants on the other. Now it's time to connect the dots. Let's see if we can finally solve the mystery of the Bunyip. So our first major suspect is that Diprotodon we just met. We're talking about the largest marsupial that has ever lived. It was enormous, it was powerful, and it would have been a truly awe-inspiring and probably pretty terrifying sight for the first people in Australia. But there is another contender, and this one is pure nightmare fuel. Picture a goanna, a monitor lizard. Now scale it up to be 5 or 6 meters long. That was Megalania. It was a true monster, an apex predator that could have easily hunted early humans. Its existence just adds a whole new layer of terror to this prehistoric world. And this, right here, is where the pieces really start to click into place. The legend lines up so well with the fossil record. The stories mention a booming cry. Well, a creature the size of a Diprotodon would have had some serious lungs for making loud calls. What about the powerful claws and tusks? That perfectly matches the Diprotodon's huge, tusk-like front teeth, and the idea that it lurks in water holes? That's exactly where we find the highest concentration of their fossils. So here's the big idea. The theory that makes all the weird, contradictory descriptions suddenly make sense. The Bunyip isn't one specific animal. It's a composite, a fragmented cultural memory of several different, but equally real and equally terrifying megafauna. The dog-like face and tusks, that could be the Diprotodon. The terrifying predator aspect, maybe that's the Megalania. All those jumbled descriptions suddenly make perfect sense. Now, this connection between myth and megafauna has some seriously profound implications. It suggests that some of our oldest stories are way more than just fiction. They could be echoes of a lost world, passed down from generation to generation. I mean, just look at this timeline. It is absolutely staggering. The first humans in Australia lived alongside these giant animals for over 20,000 years. And even after the megafauna went extinct, maybe 40,000 years ago, the stories remained. They were passed down from person to person for an almost unimaginable amount of time. And that right there is the most incredible takeaway from all of this. The legend of the Bunyip isn't just a monster story. It could very well be evidence that Aboriginal Australian culture preserves one of the longest, most continuous oral histories on Earth, a living memory of a prehistoric world. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If the Bunyip is a memory of real-life monsters, then how many other ancient myths from all around the world, stories of dragons, giants, sea serpents, how many of them aren't just fantasy, but are maybe the last surviving echoes of forgotten histories? Like and subscribe to learn more about mysteries of the past. Share now.